Hey there, Dengar Stu here. Today's video is about servicing the Jabsco raw water pump on the Detroit diesel and is proudly sponsored by marineengine.com. Now this pump is the raw water pump for the engine, i.e. it pumps seawater from outside the boat, in, through the heat exchanger, then back overboard. They tend to need servicing relatively regularly. The impellers wear out, seals fail, all that kind of thing. So I figure we've done so much, time to give this a total service. Got to start by saying I've never done this before, like many things on this boat, so I figure just start by pulling it apart. In addition to that, I decided I'd prove to you guys that I can actually, get a job finished, start it and finish it quickly. So we'll jump back to when I first started taking this apart in the middle of winter, about 6 months ago.
This is the pump we've got. In order to get the kit, I took the cover off this pump and just put it on the wire wheel so I could read it. The numbers on this turned out to be 2570-0011, so that's the type of pump we're looking at. As with the gate valves we serviced a couple of weeks ago, I've never done this before. This isn't a how-to, this is me trying to figure it out. I should watch someone else's video first, but I'm too lazy. Alright, I've learnt something already, which is the PTO coming off the engine for the Detroit diesel is a sleeve, so we can get that off and clean that up separately. You can see all this kind of salt water damage here. This means I may actually be able to get a spanner onto here. My plan, because I don't have a 1/2 inch drive, was actually to put this socket on, which feels slightly loose, so I'd say these are Imperial, as most of the Detroit stuff is. But these impact screwdrivers, you can just pop the driver bit off, and underneath is just a 1/2 inch drive. So I might actually try and crack it with the impact screwdriver anyway, and then we'll wind it off with a spanner. With these impact screwdrivers, you just load it up in the direction you want to go, push down, give it a tap. Now we just got this spline section pressed onto the shaft there. Looks like a woodruff key here. So I'll give it a little bit of a spray with something penetrating, and then I'll see if I can get a puller onto it. I don't know, this will do. Some old can of Worth stuff that's almost empty. Three-jawed pullers at the boat, I think, so we'll try and do it with this 2-jaw. 17mm socket, give it a go. It's just sliding off way too easily. Ah yes, underneath here is tapered. You can see under here is tapered, so the puller's not going to grip. And I can't get it under here because it doesn't reach in far enough around here. And here I thought it'd be a nice relaxing morning in the workshop. It's quite cold here this morning, down to about 0 degrees Stu, which is roughly equivalent to about 15 Celsius. Alright, let's try find another way to get this off. Yeah, there we go. That actually didn't take that much force in the end, which is good. Alright, just get the key out. Sorry, I've got this camera set up at a different angle today because I don't have my tripod here. But that's the woodruff key from it. Alright, looks good in here. Bit of rust, let's get rid of that. In here, looks like a couple of circlips and a bearing. Now this one we got to compress. I've got a different type of circuit ply, hang on. This type of circlip plier where the handle is attached to the tine on the same side expands circlips. This side where it crosses over like a pair of scissors contracts them. So alright, I might need two hands to get in here with a screwdriver as well. Alright, I'm going to soak this outer circlip for a while, but with this inner one off we should be able to drive the shaft downwards. I don't have a press here, so I'll just put the nut back on. We'll tap it through. It's already kind of falling off, but this impeller had a rubber plug on the end here, covering the end of the shaft. When I'm taking stuff apart that I'm not that familiar with, I think it's always good just to have a look at the new parts you've got to put in. So in this case, this is the new impeller. You can see it's just got a spline, female spline on the inside. So I think we should be able to lever it with the two screwdrivers off the shaft there. Once again, give it a bit of a soak, see if it comes out. I can move this spline shaft backwards and forwards pretty easily just by tapping either end. This end with a bit of a punch, this end with the nut on it. So I know it's not seized to the impeller with corrosion, so I think we'll be able to get it out. It's coming out easy enough, but one thing worth noting before we take it out is just which way this rotates. Detroit's come in left and right hand rotation from my understanding, so it's good to know they're looking down at the pump. All the blades are turning clockwise, which means the shaft must turn counterclockwise. Feels like it's almost there, but there we go. A few blades are chewed. Glad I'm putting a new one in. This clip was being a real pain, but managed to get it popped up now, so we're kind of home and hosed. Famous last words though. Got it. This plate the impeller runs along is removable at the back there, so I'm going to take that out, just hook it out. I don't have a replacement one, so I'll be careful with it. Doesn't look pitted or damaged at all, but I will give it a wipe down and clean it up too. I know all you guys who've done hundreds of these are screaming at me now, telling me exactly what to do, but bear with me. So, this part of the pump that gives it the shape that allows it to pump is attached via a screw down here, so we'll get that out. Out. Clean that up. Clean that up. Now we should better hook that backing plate out, no trouble. This is very similar to the sort of bottom plate you see on outboard water pumps. It doesn't seem like it's worn at all, which is good. Grubby, but not worn. You can see down here now, little pin at the bottom is just an alignment dowel for that plate. Then the mechanical seals around the shaft. Then the shaft goes through the bearing on this side. These splines are recessed, so I can't see any reason why this wouldn't press out through that seal. Don't have a press here, so I'm going to give it a few taps. If it doesn't come free, I might take it up to the workshop.
Alright, now we've got it fully stripped apart, time to start putting it back together. You can generally buy service kits for these pumps, so check companies like marineengine.com, they sell the kits, and you'll generally get like a full service kit, gaskets, impeller, seals, all that kind of stuff. When I went to look at the footage for this, it was a little bit sketchy. I was putting it back together at the same time we were working on the engine at the workshop, but the fundamental process is that I first had to press an oil seal in. This is the seal that stops oil from the engine coming out from the pump. Then once we had that in, we press the main bearing for this in. This is only a single bearing. I believe more modern ones have dual bearings to give the shaft more stability. Then once that's in, I had to press in the main shaft and the fixed part of the mechanical seal. All right, here we go. Had to run up the road and get some more bolts, but while I was there, I also got some high tensile studs for the engine mounts. So we got 2 per engine mount. So that's good. A tap, some nylock flange bolts to go on the top of them. But everything else is for putting together the Jabsco. I had a bit of a snafu filming a lot of this. So as you can see, the shaft's in the previous video, we pressed the bearing in, then I pressed the shaft into that. The shaft then had a circlip that held it in place. And in the center there, we've got the stationary part of the mechanical seal pressed into the housing as well. Now that's a little bit grubby, so I'm going to get cotton bud and clean it up with some just clean water, and I'm going to leave the water on there because putting the fresh water on there is actually the best startup lubrication for these mechanical seals as well. So what I'm actually going to do first though is put the backing plate in. That way I can make cleaning the mechanical seal the very last thing I do before we put the other half in, which is here. Backing plate has a little notch here that goes over the dowel down here. If this had been significantly worn, which it is a bit on that side, I guess you can just flip it around. You know, it's got 2 sides, so we may as well do that. There's a little fibre washer under this too, just to stop it dripping from here. Not that it's the end of the earth if it did, but you may as well seal it as much as you can. Okay, backing plate and cam in. Oh, stinking hot now. It was raining this morning, now the sun's come out and it's just like a sauna. Alright, once this impeller's in, I'll talk a bit more about how these pumps actually work. But for now, I'm going to get it in. You could possibly get it in without the cam in and then bend it and put the cam in place. You know, I think that might be easier. But at the same time, most of the time when you're servicing these, you are just going to be pulling the impeller out, putting a new one in. So I'm going to give it a go like this. If we don't have any luck, I'll take the cam back out. Now, what we need to do first though is I'm going to put this little bit of Yamaha grease. I think it used to be called Grease A, it's changed. Just going to put a little bit of that on the drive shaft splines, just so that the impeller's a little bit easier to take out in a year or so's time, hoping it lasts that long. This is the other one that comes with the kit. This is the impeller lubricant that you put around the housing so that the pump doesn't burn up when you first start it up before it starts to suck water. Wouldn't call it an oil, halfway between an oil and a grease. And the packet's open, so we may as well use it all. Okay, now, what I'm going to do now is clean that surface up on the mechanical seal. A little bit of spring water, clean cotton bud, just give it a wipe over. The idea here is to clean any debris off it, as well as leave a little bit of residual water to lubricate it. Down in here is our mechanical seal. Now, the rotating part has a spring-loaded section, slightly rubberized, that presses against the impeller, or the impeller presses against it. So the side that runs against the mechanical seal, so this part I'm pushing in rotates with the impeller, So I'm going to push it in, and then when the impeller goes in, it'll press against the spring and give it the required preload. This impeller does have two ways. It's not critical, but there is a cover plate that goes on the outside here. So, you know, let's have this bit to the outside. Now, this impeller rotates this way. So what I'm going to do is sort of rotate it as I get it in. And then, once we're lined up with some splines, we can push down. Easier said than done, but you get the idea. So as I put it in, you can see the blades are bent clockwise because it rotates counterclockwise. Then we've just got our little cover plate, not super necessary, but we'll put it in. Now this is sitting ever so slightly proud, which is not good because it'll only rub against the end plate then, which you can see it kind of does because it's worn, but best it doesn't. So I'm going to find somewhere to prop this, see if I can give it a bit more force down. Oh, new float for the GX390, the Honda, and there is a spring in this one, so I'm going to replace the one I repaired for this one using the spring this time so it, you know, seats properly. Another job. Here we go. Alright, let's put our gasket on. I'm not going to put anything on this gasket because it's not a paper gasket, it's actually a sort of a polymer gasket of some description. What I will do though, now I think about it, I should have saved a little bit of that impeller lube, shouldn't I? Because it's going to rub a bit here to start with, so I think I might put a little bit of lubricant on this end plate too. Given I used all that other lubricant up, I'm just going to use a little bit of this, you know, biodegradable dishwashing liquid. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit of Loctite on these bolts. You could probably even put grease just to stop them coming undone. I don't think I've got any washers here either, but the plate will do that job nicely. Let's be honest, it is just a water pump. It's not a space rocket. Alright, then we'll torque these up to won't come undone again Newton meters. Okay, now final thing here, we've got our Woodruff key in, and this is a new nylock. So just line up the Woodruff key, get the flange on, washer, nylock, and we're kind of home and hosed. Can see as I rotate it is the impeller blades inside there, probably flicking around, hard to see, but you can see them in there. Something else that was a bit of a contentious issue when I was talking about installing this was whether to have the cooling water go overboard, above the water or below the water. Because I've already got the Seacock installed, I've decided to go below the water, but I did grab one of these, I think it's a 2-inch T-piece. Sensor goes in here. If there's enough cooling water flowing across the paddle, it'll click it over. As soon as it's sprung loaded, so as soon as the water stops, it flips back, and then we've got an alarm on the dash. The great thing about this is you have your coolant water monitored the whole time the boat's underway, rather than just looking over the side when the boat first starts up and then ignoring it for the rest of the journey, which is what generally happens with most boats. So I'm pretty happy with this combo. By the time you've got the large sprocket, it's even easier to turn it with the mechanical advantage. So, we're pretty much ready to go. I feel like my attempts at filming this Jabsco service have been a little bit less than you guys deserve. So, what I'm going to do now is actually just jump in the water. I got, I'll show you when we go outside, but bought a new mask with the GoPro sort of fitting on the top of it, because obviously we're going to be starting to film more underwater stuff. Huge thanks to the people who have subscribed on Patreon, because this is the sort of gear that your money goes directly towards. I try to put the Patreon money towards getting more gear that allows us to film better and better videos, and using the YouTube advertising money directly towards living expenses. But I figure, you know, you guys are paying to see videos, and if that money can be put towards making better videos, then you're getting value for money, and that's what I'm hoping to do. So we've got this. I'm going to jump in quickly. What I'm going to do is, before we do the engine alignment, I want to know how much of the prop shaft is sticking out from the cutlass bearing. How far between the cutlass bearing and the rope cutter, because that's the maximum I can push the prop shaft in before it's not going to go any further. I'd also like to know how far between the back of the prop and the rudder, because that tells me how far I can push it out. Pushing out is difficult because the prop shaft gets thicker, as we talked about, but anyway. So let's jump in the water. It's a reasonably nice afternoon. It's actually quite hot. Tomorrow's starting raining, so let's just do this little recce first, then we'll know what we've got to work with, which will be useful information for doing the alignment, which will happen in the next video. Well, at least we'll start. Not guaranteeing success in one video, but you know. This is the mask I got. It's a Cressy branded one, and it has the little GoPro mount on it, and this is one of the standard, I think they call it a super suit or something, which is the waterproof case for the GoPro. I had to buy that as well. This I think fits a GoPro 5 to 7 or something, so we'll use this. Also just grabbed a brush because the prop shaft doesn't have real anti-foul on it per se. It has a wax on it, which only really works if the prop's spinning, which it hasn't been doing for a while, so I figure we may as well give it a clean while we're down there. It's bound to be quite dirty, so we may as well do that now. Oh, should probably warn you too, the river water here is quite murky. You're not going to see a lot, neither am I, but here's what it is. We're diving light today, keep it simple, slip-on fins, no boots, no weight belt, no wetsuit, no dive buddy, just us. This is where I'd normally do like a really cool dive-in shot, then swap to underwater, but I've only got one GoPro, so I'll go get the camera. Swapping to dive cam. Oh, it's total amateur hour, isn't it? Once I moved past my free-flowing octopus, I headed down, just took a look. It turned out to be pretty bad, to be honest with you. Quite a bit of growth. I also noticed there was quite a bit of growth on the bottom of the keel, and I think that's a product of some places where I couldn't get anti-foul due to sitting on the blocks when I was on the hard stand, and also just some of the anti-foul scraping off the bottom of the keel from when we had that launch that didn't quite go to plan. Anyway, I sort of got in there and pulled quite a bit of the weed off. I won't bore you with the whole thing. Did see a little fish just come up here that was sort of sucking onto the bottom of the keel. Funny little thing. But other than that, just picking away at it. Gave it a bit of a brush. The brush actually worked pretty well in places, but definitely barnacles that are too tough to actually get off with the brush. So next time I go down, I'll definitely come back with a paint scraper or something like that. Alright, as you can see, quite a bit of weed on the prop and quite a few barnacles. I really need to grab some gloves. I don't have any dive gloves anymore. So much gear is just gone by the by, and now we're getting on the water, very close to getting on the water. Time to start kitting up a little bit more with that sort of stuff. So what I'm going to do next time I go down is grab some gloves and a paint scraper. I don't want to take too much of the the ablative sort of anti-foul that's on the prop off, but at the same time, because the boat hasn't been used, it has got pretty bad. End result is I could fit about 2 fingers between the rope cutter and the cutlass bearing, so I can't bring the prop shaft very far in the boat, so that's good to know. It's good to know that if I'm going to make myself space, I really need to push the prop shaft out further first, then I can bring it back. So at least I know where I'm kind of at in the scheme of the play I've got. Alright, when I get home now, I'm going to start drilling and tapping those metal shims that I'm going to use to replace the high density polyethylene. So I'll do that, then once they're ready, I'll bring them out and we're going to start doing the engine alignment finally. Alright, well, take care and I'll catch you then. See ya. Feathers, look at you, you've molted away, haven't you? You're a different colour even. Come on in. You look funny now you've molted so much. Grow some new feathers, eh? Oh, well, you picked a good day to molt anyway because of the heat. Daisy, there you go, here we go. Cute Daisy one. You like the beans, don't you? You gonna give Daisy one? Daisy! Daisy! Oh, look at your skinny little thing. Don't grow your feathers back until winter. Sounds like good advice. You look ratty though. You're not so pretty anymore. Oh, have some water. No more beans. Have some water. Go on. It's good for you. D Squad's gone super adventurous today and made a rare foray up to the back of the block, looking for new worms. You've done well, Daffy, with your leg to get all the way up here. Or is it simply that you don't want to be left behind? What are you doing, Dotty? Grow some feathers, will you? Oh, look at this. New digging. What have you found? Oh, look at this. You've found my missing pry bar. Well done. Well done. Oh well. Oh, hello. Look at you. You're a shocker with your feathers. You're all molted. Still, you've climbed the highlands to get a view of the river. Well done. Everyone's proud of you on the internet. Going, yay, D Squad.